Good afternoon, beautiful souls. How are you all today? I hope you're well. I am definitely on the yellow side of mellow. What a gorgeous day. I've got to get a new word other than gorgeous. But it's true, it's a gorgeous day. So I'm continuing, just get comfy now that Rusty's got out of my way. Yes, I'm continuing my day from when you last saw me, when I had that lovely morning of picking and doing all sorts of little odd jobs here and there. It's great, and it's really, I sort of made a bit of a conscious effort, darling, a bit of a conscious, I'm sorry, I don't know what's got into me. Yeah, a bit of a conscious effort to just go a little bit slowly today. You know, in the last few weeks, I feel like I'm just always hurrying from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's really important for, you know, mental health. It's really important for me anyway to just at times say, you know what, slow down, take a few items off the agenda, do what you need to do, that you really need to do, but just do it mindfully and slowly. So this morning's put me in a perfect mood to do a job that I've been putting off for a couple of weeks. It's this lot up here. So the onions are perfectly dry now. I could have got this job done a couple of weeks ago, but like I say, I've been manically sewing and all sorts of other things. So anyway, in this frame of mind, it's perfect for getting on with that job. I just want to say a quick thank you as well to Jay in Australia, who sent me, this came through the post, I was like, oh my god, she has sent me a squished mouse in the post. But it's actually a muff for my camera to just try and cut down on some of the wind sounds, because as you know by now, my site, that wind just whips across the slightest breeze and somehow it sort of gets funneled and turns into what feels like a howling gale. What I will do, I'm not actually going to put these on today, I forgot when I was filming this morning. I'm not exactly sure where the microphone is on my camera, it's inbuilt, so I'll put those there safely. So I'll do that this evening when I'm at home. I'll find the microphone, see if I can get it sorted. I'll do a little test video of myself to make sure I haven't completely muffled all the sound. But thank you, Jay. That's fab. So, what's on the agenda for this afternoon? Ah, yes, the big job, the onions. One of the reasons, like I said, I could have probably done it 2 weeks ago, but I really need to get on with it now, because very soon, as you saw from the previous video, it's going to be time to harvest the dried beans. And generally when I harvest them, well, I like to leave them on the vines, on the plants as long as possible, do all their drying naturally in the sun, lovely, lovely, lovely. But there will come a point where we start to get rainy days again. I've had a couple of showers, nothing much, actually nowhere near enough for the garden. I've had to water. But yes, when it looks, I'll leave them as long as possible, and when it looks like we're moving into rainy weather, I like to pick them all off the plants, and then I'll spread them out on my onion drying racks. Just give them a couple of days, 2 or 3 days down here. The shed's so warm and dry. Then I'll take them home, pod them and lay them out for a last, absolutely dead certain dry at home. Before I can get any beans up on the rack, I need to get all the onions down. So let's have them down, let's get them cleaned, let's string them up. And while I'm doing it, because it's going to take me ages, I'm just going to have a little chat. I'm just going to chuck some thoughts around about my feelings on how this year's gone so far, and a couple of little things I'm thinking of doing differently for next year. So, if you've got long sleeves on, roll them up. We're going to get mucky. I've got a helper. Hey buddy. Oh, he's a cutie. Oh, Rusty. I wouldn't mind, he's already had about 5 million cuddles, haven't you? Right, so, You know, I was thinking if I didn't need the space up here for drying the, what's going up here again? Oh, beans. And then later on the flint corns will go here. If I didn't need that space for them, you know, that would make a perfectly good storage for the onions. That'd be absolutely fine. But I need the space, so down they come. And the easiest thing to do is just get them all down into the wheelbarrow, get them out of the shed, clean them before I start stringing. I am being quite careful with them. I'm not just taking them down and chucking them in the barrow because I don't want to bruise them. Anyway, this is going to take me a couple of minutes. Come back to me. And then afterwards I can take the blankets out of the shed and give them a good shake from all the bits that have dropped down. Oh, it's a stretch. So bright. And it is a little bit blustery, and I just did try to look for the mic on the camera to put the muff on, but it looks like the mic is all the way across the front and the muff won't fit. I'm not sure, so I haven't put it on, but I'll have a look when I get home this evening to do it. And I was just thinking, wow, there are days like today, I'll talk about that in a second. There are days like today and I think, do you know what, it would definitely be easier to just go to the shop and buy stuff. Just go to work for a day, come home, on the way home, go to the shops and buy all your groceries and be done. There we go. All your food in an hour. The onions are a bit time consuming, there's no two ways about it. When they're in the ground they're not, they kind of look after themselves. But after harvest, getting them all threaded in the drying rack, getting them sort of cleaned and strung up today, it's a little bit time consuming. But you see, if I was working right now in a, in a proper job, because this isn't a proper job, is it? But if I was working in an office or something like that, I wouldn't be outside. I wouldn't be having this beautiful moment I'm having today. Right, what's very evident, even as I was taking them off the drying rack, is some of them are yuck. I can feel it straight away. They're soft, they're rotty. Rotty? There we go, it's a new word. Sometimes when you're lifting them, it's not dead obvious if there's a bit of rot. But that's why I'm always saying about just when you hang them to dry, just make sure they've all got a bit of space between them, so that you're not going to spread the rot. Now in terms, didn't mean to take that out. In terms of cleaning them, I'm just removing a little bit of the neck. It's really dry. I can feel on them where it's really dried and it's really quite tight around there, so it's made a nice seal for storing. And like I say, I'm just removing the really loose, well you can hear, can't you, the loose crinkly leaves. I'm not worried about how this looks. I'm not thinking about in terms of trying to, another soft one, oh gosh. Yeah, I'm not trying to make these look beautiful. They're not going to go on a competition bench anywhere. Oh my goodness, every now and again I see those competition onions on benches. They're like, I saw one on a Facebook group the other day, it was about 6 kilos. Do people eat those afterwards? Are these giant veg edible? I don't know. No idea. Anyway, yes, so digressing, I'm not interested in making these pretty, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing in any way. I'm just after them storing for as long as possible. So I'm just having a really good feel. Oh, I think I'm going to string all my, what was it called again? Stuttgart or something. I think I'll do those as a separate string, because even though Gary said there wasn't much difference in flavour and taste, I would like to kind of try them on their own first time round. Okay, so this is going to take me for forever. What I might do is I'm going to just very quickly show you how I string them up. And then I'm going to come and sit back down and we can have a chat. We need to talk. Let's have a chat about how this year has gone. Right, let me get some string and I'll show you how I string them up. I have done a separate video on this. It's in my how I store my produce, but I'll just quickly show you again. So it's a nice quickie for you. Let's have a quickie. Okay, so I'm going to show you my quick and easy cheats version. Way less complicated with twisting and turning than, say, the garlic. Dead easy, anyone can do this. So I've got a length of string, not too long. I'll do slightly varying lengths so that when I hang them in the shed they're not all sort of hanging in a stack, they can hang down and around each other. Length of string, I've tied a knot in the top to make a little loop, and then this end I'm actually going to knot onto my first onion. Ooh, do you know what? Even that one I'm not sure about. If you've got any that you're slightly unsure about, I mean, some of them it'll be obvious if they're really rotten. Others, you may not be 100% that they're rotten, 100% they're good. Set them to one side, take them home, just get them, you know, chop into them, and if they don't smell foul, use them. So I'm literally just tying that to the neck of the onion, and that starts my little base. And I have my little permanent hook up here, just for stringing the onions. Then get your next onion. Excuse me. Still got mucus. Introduce the neck of your onion to your string. Bend the neck down, around, down and under through 360 degrees, and then push that down on top of the bottom one. Because its neck is underneath it, as you push it down it sort of traps it and holds it in place. Sometimes when you do the first couple they fly off. Once you've got a couple on there it gets a bit easier. So I'm introducing the neck to the string. The neck comes around, down and under, all the way back to where it started, and then just whoop-la. Oh, my little hook just moved a bit. There we go. Carry on doing that for the next hour or more. I hope it's actually going to be more than an hour, because I hope that means that not too many of my onions are looking hinky. Oh, it's always such a shame, isn't it? But like I say, with everything else in the garden, you know, if you get despondent every time something doesn't work, then I don't think growing your own is for you. Of course we do have moments when we get despondent, of course we do, or disappointed, or however else you want to phrase it. But it's really important when you're having those days to just dust yourself off as quickly as you can and get on. Because you know what, there's always something to be pleased with and happy about in the garden. So you can see it just builds up like that. Let's grab a couple more, finish this one. Oh, another soft one. Oh no. What was I just saying? Okay. Keep calm, Vivi, keep calm. There's no point, absolutely no point in stressing out. And look, the bottom line is, with my harvests, you know, I'm trying to grow so that I don't need to go to the shops. Of course I am. But I'm not going to stubbornly starve. So if I run out of something, I'll do some more sowing. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll make a little bit of money and I'll use that and I'll buy more onions. Obviously the more I can grow myself, the better. But like I say, I'm not going to be stubborn or proud or anything like that. If things go really badly wrongly, I'll make some money some other way and just go buy me food. Yay, okay, first little string done. How pleasing. So, I've got to make space in the shed. I've got bags of lavender and lentils hanging everywhere. Let's go make a bit of space. Almost invariably you're going to end up with a bunch of tiddlers. Look at my little tiddlers. And you're going to end up with a few that have virtually no neck to them. So the seal is good and tight, but the material is so dry it's just snapped off, so they're nigh on impossible to string. No worries, I just store them in a basket. The thing about the basket is there's still plenty of air circulation, so you know they shouldn't sweat in there. Great. What I would advise though is, you could also, you know those kind of it's like cotton string bags, they're almost like knitted. Some people call them turtle bags. They're really useful for hanging your onions in too. What I would say is any that you've got in a big clump like this, I use them first, because if one of them spoils, it just means by using these first, I'm continually looking through them. The ones I've got strung up, they're more obvious. I sort of can see if there's something going wrong. I'll also give them a bit of a squeeze every now and again. But yeah, I use all the basket ones first, get used up all my tiddlers, and then I move on to my strings. Yay! Right, let's do some more stringing and a few ideas about this year. I think it's perfectly natural at this time of year. You know, it feels like the garden is almost over for another year. Of course it's not, it's going to keep going all winter. But the big stuff, you know, all the sowing, planting, the big harvests, they're done. So I think it's perfectly normal at this stage in the year to start to sort of reflect on how things have gone. And as I was saying earlier, you know, it's easy to sort of to focus on what hasn't worked. When you think, oh, it's a disaster. There's no such thing as a disaster in the garden. Well, unless you chop your finger off, that is a bit of a disaster. But I mean with the plants, you know, try not to think too dramatically in terms of disaster, but just try to think of it as a learning opportunity. And as I'm sort of coming to the end of this part of the season, especially having just been to Kew and seen what's going on there, it's inevitable that I'm starting to think about, you know, what's worked well, what hasn't, why have things not worked so well. So for example, with the fennel, as I was showing you in the last video, I think probably I should give them a bit more space. Like I said, I haven't in the past and they've been okay, but maybe that was just luck. So maybe they do need a bit more space. Maybe they need a bit more muck. Maybe they need a bit more light. So I shall, actually as I was having my lunch, because I'd just done that, I was thinking, where on earth can I put them next year? I have to go back to the drawing board and think about where I can put them. No idea at the moment. But yeah, I definitely want somewhere more sun for them. And so I was also thinking about I have been thinking about the squash a lot, because my Waltham butternuts have been rubbish. I've got 6 plants. I think I'm going to have 4 squash. I would normally plan for and hope for 2 squash per plant. Sometimes 3, but generally 2. So to have, I mean, it's almost like half a squash per plant. That's just not enough for me. So, was it that particular variety? Because I know from, talking about it in previous videos and on my Facebook page, other folk with Walthams have also had a rubbish crop this year. But then other people with other butternuts have also had a really rubbish year. So maybe it's just a rubbish year for butternuts. I don't know why, because, we've been warm, we've been sunny. With mine, for instance, I've kept them well watered. I'm not sure. What I am glad about is some of the other, the more quirky squash I grow, the heritage varieties, if you like, they've done okay. Thank goodness I did them as well. And actually that just goes to show it's really important not to sort of have a bit of a monoculture going on in your garden. Let me just hang these, I'll be back. Without disturbing Poppy. Yeah, it's a good reminder that, having just one type of a plant isn't a good idea, because if it fails, you've got no backup. So for next year for squash, I'll carry on doing my heritage, my ones up the TP. Some have done better than others. In terms of the actual butternut for my horizontal growing, I'm not sure yet. The lasses next door to me have got some really beautiful ones. They got them from a garden centre though, and there was no label on them. It just said butternut squash, so they don't know what variety they are. But I'm thinking, because they've done all right for them, I'm thinking I'm going to ask if they can save some seed for me. The only thing is, I don't know whether it was an F1 to start with. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, really disappointed with the Waltham butternuts. I do have some seed left, so I'll try again with them next year. That one doesn't want to stay. I think that needs to be a bottom one. It's a biggie. I'm going to try them again next year with those seeds I've got left over, but I won't give too much space to them. And I'll certainly keep mixing up my varieties. And talking of mixing up varieties, so tomatoes. Okay, tomatoes haven't been brilliant this year either. They seem to ripen really late, really late. And just when things were starting to ripen, boom, you get the blight. So fortunately, I have had a harvest from them, and it's okay. It's an all right harvest. It'll keep me going. But I was thinking, maybe I should introduce a different tomato next year. I've tried, snapped that one, that's going in the basket. Where's my basket? I've tried all sorts of varieties over the years. I keep coming back to Gardener's Delight because it's generally pretty prolific, and it's just always done really well for me. But it seems to make sense to me because I bottle so much of it, or bottle or freeze. Actually, what would be better is to get a bigger tomato. So same number of plants, same amount of space, same number of trusses, but hopefully a bigger tomato, so more weight to it, so therefore more to store. And I've heard quite a few people talking this year, particularly Richard and Paul have been talking about their Amish paste tomatoes, which I have to say have looked gorgeous in their videos, and they are great for making sauces with. So I don't make sauces, I store them au naturel, just so that I've got multi options to use them further down the line. But yeah, they've looked great, so I think I'm going to try a few of those next year. And who knows? Perhaps they would be one that would ripen a bit earlier. So for example, looking around the various gardens on my site, I noticed a lot of the yellow and the orange cherry types, or the miniature pear types, they were cropping way earlier than my Gardener's Delight. So it might be time to think about maybe having 2 different varieties next year, in the hopes that I can get a crop earlier, so that if, like this year, the blight has come, you know, it doesn't scupper me completely. We'll see. It's the same dilemma every year. I want to experiment. I want to try new things, but I don't have much space. And now that I'm relying on this food, I don't really have the space to give over for something that might not work. Oh yeah, it's become more and more of a dilemma in the last couple of years. Oh, sorry, Poppy. I've snapped a neck. I've snapped an onion neck. Yeah, just be careful when you're hanging them. That'll go in the basket. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so final thing. I'll make a long one for the other side. I might need to make 2 more. I've got to do all the reds yet. With the bean arches, they've worked really well again this year. They worked great last year, apart from the fact that they collapsed in the wind, and the fact that it was a rubbish year for beans last year. And that just shows as well, doesn't it? You know, last year the beans were awful. I just thought, oh my goodness. But then the tomatoes and the squash were astonishing last year, absolutely fantastic. So I've come to the conclusion that you just can't have everything great in one year. But yeah, just on the thought of the beans, the new improved bean arches have worked really well. They're still standing, yay! Thanks in a large part to the fact that I got new poles from Kevin, thank you. In terms of what I've grown, the Trail of Tears have been really prolific. They're for drying. The Gigantes, they have been their usual wonderful selves. This year they're back to normal. Hooray! The Coco Sophie was new to me this year. They taste great. That one's going to fall off. They taste great. They've been prolific. They did seem to suffer from the slugs initially. So it might be that next year I have to start them all in pots. I don't know. But I'm definitely doing them again. The main thing is with the climbing beans, for the footprint of soil it's taking up, I can get so much more into the garden than if I was just doing bush beans. So the Coco Sophie is a definite yes. I tried a few other beans this year. The asparagus bean and the rattle, that's all I'll call it, bean. They've not done so well for me. It may be my climate, it may be my soil, it may be that the ones that did make it I should take seed from and they'll be more acclimatised, they'll work better in my garden. But to be honest, I've kind of, I'll be changing my mind in the new year, you wait. But I'm at a stage now where I'm not sure that I want to be experimenting quite so much. I want to, I think because this year's been so busy and such hard work to keep on top of everything, that in some ways I'd like to go back to, I'd like to simplify the garden, grow the things which I've grown for the last 2 or 3 years, grown from my own seed, that are reliable, so that I just don't have to worry and think about the garden so much. Getting bits of dry onion in my throat. So for example, the borlotti, I am fed up. I'm fed up with sowing climbing borlotti and they don't climb. They turn out as bush. And this year I used seed. I was given seed in a packet, in a proper packet, so it wasn't even like someone else's saved seed. It's supposed to be climbing borlotti. No, I've ended up with 3 pathetic little bushes with, I mean, there's a few meals in them. There are a few meals, but it's a waste of space for me. I just, like I said, I just can't afford to give over that much space to one piddly little plant with maybe 10 pods on it, as opposed to a climbing plant which may end up with 30 or 40 pods on it. So yeah, Bellotti, I'm done with you for now. I'm going to have to watch this back in January when I'm doing my plan. It'll be all changed. So yeah, actually come on, let's have a sit down and round things up before I start on the red onions. Joy. Oh, that's a happy sight, isn't it? A few more up there. Still got all the reds to go. Big basket over there. I've got about, how many have I taken home? I think I've got about 20 at home in the flat. So nice little harvest of onions this year. Shame about the ones that were rotten. I think there are about 6 in the end. Plus, I think when I harvested there were, I can't remember now whether there were 2 or 3. So 8 or 9. Let's call it 10. 10 were hinky out of the whole lot. That's not bad. Yeah, just to sort of sum up really, that you know, every year is a learning year. We learn so much from our own gardens every year if we listen to the garden. Let the garden teach us. Let the garden show us what it wants and needs. So yes, there's always something to learn, whether it's from our own garden, whether it's from our neighbours' gardens, our friends' gardens, all of you with your fab tips that you're always giving me. So we never stop learning. And I would say, you know, historically, I've never stopped wanting to experiment. But I think next year, like I was saying, I think I'm going to probably be a bit boring. In terms of sticking with some sort of tried and trusted and reliable types of veggies. Also in terms of methods in the garden. Actually, that is probably, I know we're not at the end of the year yet, and in a way, you know, I think of a year being from March to the end of the next February, because in March that's when we really start to get into the garden, get on with our bed prep, what have you. And the garden's going to go on all through the winter, of course, with all the brassicas and carrots and parsnips. So we're not at the end of the year, but what I will say is I think the biggest lesson for me in the last, probably actually the last 2 years, is looking after my soil. That's absolutely got to be my priority. It has become so, and it is going to continue to be so. So for example, last year was the first year that I, instead of using green manure in the beds, the field beans, why didn't I? Oh, that's right, because the seed came too late. Just to say very quickly, sorry, all over the place. The thing for me with green manure is my beds generally aren't empty until towards the end of October, even going into November. And that's quite late for sowing the vast majority of green manures. So field beans were my only real option. The problem with field beans is it still leaves a lot of exposed soil, so I was still ending up with that really claggy clay compaction come the spring. And they need turning in, and it was always such an effort and a nightmare. And obviously I'm becoming more and more aware of looking after my body in the garden. So like I said, last year was the first year I tried covering the beds with the leaves and the cardboard. And some of the beds it wasn't leaves, it was compost. Some of the beds it was not composted yet, but it was all the rubbish material at the end of the year from, say, the beans coming down, the squash plants, that sort of thing. Got everything covered in cardboard, and it worked really well. Even in that first winter of doing it, come the spring, getting my beds ready, it was so much easier. I'm not ever going to be a no-dig gardener. I can't. I've said it before. probably say it again, I hope I don't, I'm a broken record. But the problem round here is nothing is for free. We have no access to any free horse stable muck. If you remember way back in the spring, we were following up on a lead with the Metropolitan Police with their horse unit, which is quite near to us. That was all going brilliantly. It looked like we were going to get a deal with them, and then at the last minute, a combination of them and the council, they've decided that it will be sold. So they're selling their rubbish. Anyway, yes, so I'll never be no dig, but I am definitely moving towards less dig. That's partly for me and my body, but also because I do want to look after that soil. I've had 7 years now, seven years of fantastic harvests out of these beds. You can see I garden pretty intensively, both in terms of cramming stuff into the space, but also there are some beds which will be in use for 18 months. Oh, sorry, lentils. I've got to thresh the lentils. Yeah, there are some beds which will be in use for 18 months before they get their 6 months of fallow time. So, firstly, I can't be doing it all wrong if I'm getting such great harvests every year. But I am highly, highly aware that as every year goes by, for every plant I'm growing, that's taking out nutrients, and I need to give back. That's my way of saying thank you to the garden. I take from the garden all the time. I take these harvests. It's definitely time for me to give something back. So, there we go. Such a beautiful day. Such a pretty day. Sigh. I need to get on with the red onions. I'm going to say cheerio to you all for now. Thank you for hanging out with me while I was doing my onions. It's always lovely to have a bit of company when I'm doing these sort of fiddly little tasks. So it was a delight to have you all here. Can you imagine if all 3,500, 4,000 of you turned up all in one go. I'd have to oh, banging the lentils again. I must thresh the lentils. Yeah, I don't think I've got 3,500 seats down here. You'd have to sit on the grass. Oh, never mind. Right, that's it. I'm going to go get on with my red onions. I will see you all again really soon, I hope. When will I see you next? What will I be doing? Ah, I know. So the next time you see me, I'm going to be doing some harvest and seed saving, specifically some seed saving. So I'll see you then. And then probably a couple of videos after that. As I mentioned the other day, I am going to take you around my kitchen and show you what I've got stored so far. And of course, I've got stuff in the shed too. So I look forward to all of that. In the meantime, please look after yourselves. No garden disasters, please. I shouldn't have said that, should I? I think I've jinxed myself now. See you soon. Cheerio, everyone.